and welcome to episode 1 of the Fashion Feed. This feels so strange saying this because it's actually happening. This is episode 1, and I'm going to finally tell you who my first guest is. I know I've been keeping it a bit of a secret online, but it's Jane Shepherdson CBE. Now, if you've not sort of grown up and been absorbed into the world of fashion, then you may or may not know her name. But Jane is somebody that I've admired for years. She worked at Topshop for about 20 years and worked her way through the ranks in buying and became their brand director in 98 before moving on to become the CEO of Whistles, which is like insane. So I'm going to tell you a little bit of a story about how I came to meet her. In January 2018, I wrote a list of people I wanted to meet. And when I went back through it at the end of the year, I'd met them all. And it was like, oh, that's really weird. I don't even really remember writing the list. And then on a separate note, in November of 2018, I'd started following Jane on Instagram and listening to her podcast as well after a friend recommended it to me. So I sent her a DM and just said, oh, I'd love to meet you and interview her for my blog. And I had no reply, which was pretty understandable. She's really, really busy. And then anyway, back to my list of people. In January 2019, I wrote a list of new people I wanted to meet and, of course, added Jane's name to it. And the very next day, she replied to my message that I had sent her back in November, which was even more mind-blowing. And I thought about starting a podcast, but nothing more than that, really. I felt like I couldn't really waste the opportunity to meet Jane and just do a simple blog post. So I told her I was starting a podcast for definite, and would she like to be interviewed as my first guest? She said yes, and I thought, great, now how do I make a podcast? So my mum and I raced up to Carphone Warehouse to buy a microphone. I got on YouTube and figured out how to use it, and off I went to meet Jane in a small bar in King's Cross on a Friday afternoon. It was January, it was pretty chilly, and she looked as stylish as ever with like straight dark jeans and a cream teddy jacket. And she had a coffee and I had a Diet Coke. And I thought it would be quiet where we were recording, but actually a group of office workers decided to finish early and gate crash our recording, which was a nightmare. But it's fine, you know, somebody came over halfway through and asked what the time was. So we've had to sort of edit that out. But regardless, I hope you'll listen for the amazing advice that Jane gives and the insights into her industry background. And we cracked on and had a wonderful chat about everything that we're both passionate about. We cover her time working at Topshop in the 90s and pushing the boundaries as a high street store with really innovative ideas. Her time working with Sir Phillip Green, which was interesting. How she made Whistles cool again as their CEO. Finding purpose within your career to create new challenges and keep it exciting and interesting. The current state of the British fashion industry and her opinion on the trends at the high street at the moment, and why 2018 was peak shit stuff. Her words, not mine, but I love it. So Jane had just got back from like an adult gap year, which you can read more about in the show notes. And Jane's a retail expert, obviously, from the amount of experience she has, and is now working as a creative consultant. She's also an ambassador for the charity SmartWorks, a UK charity that provides high-quality interview clothes and interview training to unemployed women in need, which is also something that we cover in the episode. Jane also has her own podcast called Out of Fashion, which she hosts alongside Jane Kellock, previously of WGSN. And they made friends when they were at Topshop sort of years ago. So it's really nice to listen to them now and the experience that they've both got and the different directions that they took. And it's an absolute must listen for anyone interested in fashion. And that's also linked in the show notes. So obviously this is episode 1. I'd welcome any feedback on the podcast. So please leave me a review or drop me a message and let me know your thoughts. So here's Jane. Welcome, Jane, to the podcast. Thanks for coming on.
It's lovely to be here.
Thank you. I thought it might be good just to start with a little introduction about yourself in case anybody doesn't know who you are and a little brief career history.
Sure. Okay, so I started in the industry, back in the mid-80s.
Okay.
At Topshop. I started as an allocator and worked my way up. And so by, I guess, the late 90s, I was running Topshop. And
as you do.
as you do, yes. Well, and Topshop had, when I first joined Topshop, it started off as it was kind of it was a cheap and cheerful sort of teen retailer. It wasn't anything special. But we had aspirations, if you like, to turn it into something that we would be really, really proud of.
Yeah.
So we started with product. We started with building the design team, which was quite a small team to begin with. So we built that team. We wanted really kind of exciting, interesting, innovative designers who actually were keen to have their own brands, but would work at Topshop instead. We also looked at collaborations with other existing designers, which was something at the time that hadn't actually been done before. And we also wanted to escape, if you like, from being seen as people that copied the catwalk. So we exactly, we brought up, we created Topshop Unique, which was our own brand, and we actually started to show on the catwalk at London Fashion Week, again, which was something that High Street had not done before. We had a huge amount of fun. It seemed like everything that we did, everything that we thought was exciting that customers would want, they did want. They wanted more and more of it. We also looked at the kind of service side of it. We looked at in-store theatre. We looked at trying to make the whole shopping experience as fun and exciting as it possibly could be. And we thought just because you perhaps didn't have a lot of money and you couldn't shop at designer stores didn't mean that you couldn't be treated like a VIP. You couldn't have style advice from our style advisors. I think at one point we had hot guys on scooters delivering your clothes to you in 2 hours time anywhere in London, which is something which nowadays is kind
pretty
of
standard.
Is
well,
standard.
maybe they're not the hot men.
They're not always hot, no.
Yeah.
It's fairly standard, but in the 90s it was something that people weren't doing.
Yeah.
So we just kind of, we really wanted to create a business that was just exciting and innovating and doing something new and something different. And we all were very proud of it.
Yeah.
And it was a great business.
I think when you put a lot of energy into something, it's obvious.
Yes, but I think you have to do that.
Yeah.
I think if you're in the fashion business at all, you kind of have to be extremely passionate about it. You can't sort of just get by or exactly. It just kind of doesn't work.
No, because it is stressful.
It is stressful.
And if you don't love it, I think it's obvious. Yeah.
I think you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
So I stayed there until 2000, at the end of 2006.
Yeah.
By that time, Phillip Green had taken over, and although at the beginning when he took over, he was quite happy to sort of let us just get on with it because he had other parts of the business that he needed to address. It became very clear that he thought Topshop was the sexy part of it and that he wanted a part of that. And I realised that I couldn't actually work with him, so so I left it to him.
Yeah.
And I went and...
was that before or after Kate Moss?
It was we'd just met Kate.
Okay.
And I think that in a way that was his into the business. He had met Kate at some party or whatever, and he obviously thought, if I get Kate into Topshop, then that means that I'm bringing something into Topshop, so I can be a part of it, if you like.
Like validate.
Exactly. Yeah. Which is fine, but I didn't want to be a part of that at all.
No.
So I wanted to do something different, and the idea of a smaller brand with at a slightly higher price point is very attractive to me. So I kind of spent a year or so looking around for something that felt right. I spent the year. I did a lot of work with Oxfam at the time, and the year out that I took, we created some boutiques there. And then I found Whistles, and Whistles seemed to me to be. It had started off as a brand that was kind of different and interesting, and I know when it started, she had Lucille had some of her own collection, but also she bought from Dries Van Noten and Margiela, various sort of different up and coming designers at the time. So it was a nice brand, but it had got very tired. I think it had been bought and sold a few times.
It was sort of under-potentialised.
It was definitely, but it had shops in the right places and the right sort of size of stores. And it was at an interesting price point. And at that time, that sort of price point that was above high street but below designer, there was quite a gap at the time. In fact, there isn't. If you look at that part of the market now, it's full of the French brands, and it's such. There's an awful lot happening there. At the time, it sort of seemed like an opportunity, and we wanted to create a sort of contemporary brand that had a relevance for both working women and that sort of had a fashion edge. Something that was sort of still exciting. But kind of effortless, if you like. The kind of brand where you just throw it on in the morning and you look amazing.
Fabulous.
Isn't that what we all want?
I know.
Desperately.
The Scandi sort of look.
Totally. So that was what we were trying to do. So a lot of the management team from Topshop came with me, and we kind of spent. I guess we spent 8 years changing it completely, really. Right from the sort of the logo right through to the obviously the collection product. We showed at Fashion Week. We kind of made it into something that was a lot cooler than it was and had a lot more relevance. So I did that for 8 years. Then we needed, as always with fashion, the brand needed financing again. So I decided that it was time to move on, to leave it to the next management team. And also because in a way you kind of you achieve something and then you can keep on doing it, or you can sort of look for the next challenge or whatever. Actually, I didn't look for a challenge. I looked for. I went.
A little bit of fun.
I did exactly. I thought, geez, I've been working all this time. So we took a year out and we went around America, West Coast, for a year, just having a good time, to be honest. And it was amazing. I really absolutely loved every minute of it. I loved the spontaneity of it. I loved not having booked something for 4 weeks time and just thinking, let's just go to the Grand Canyon and have a wild time. So
in fashion, the calendar is it rules your life.
Totally, absolutely, yes.
I need a holiday. Sorry, it's Fashion Week.
Exactly, yes. You have to pick your time really carefully, don't you? Yeah. So it was really nice. It was a very, very nice, just feel free. Yes, very liberating. So we did that. Came back last summer, and
how was it coming back?
Well, it was kind of weird. I mean, things have changed so much in the last 2 years.
Instagram,
I think,
for one.
Well, I think the whole retail landscape has just it's already changed completely. But I think it still there's a huge amount of development to happen, and I think in the next couple of years, it's going to look very, very different again.
I was reading about a couple of brands. One was called Choosy, where if somebody's seen wearing it like an influencer and it gets a certain amount of likes, they'll then go away and make it.
Well, I think Boohoo do that. They say that it gets available. 1,000 likes on Instagram, they then produce it.
Yeah, and it's trying to counteract wastage, but I'm not sure if it's that or extreme fast fashion.
Yeah, I think it's sounds more like the latter to me. Yeah.
And then the sort of showroom idea as well, but where you can't actually buy anything in store, but you just go and review it.
You go and have a look at it, yes.
Which I think a lot of people do now anyway.
I think that whole kind of, I think you kind of have to, I think it's a nice way to do it, is to have a kind of pop-up space that is, a bit lifestyle, a bit sort of, more interesting perhaps, and it gives you a better idea of what the brand is about, and also you can feel the quality, which is something that with online shopping you obviously can't.
My boyfriend always tells me off when I go shopping, I'm just stroking everything, I've got to touch it.
Me too, yes.
I just leave it alone. I can't, I'm sorry.
I know, it's actually quite hard if you've been in retail to get away from that.
And looking where it's from, or what it's made of.
And I think it must be very, well, it's obviously very different working for a pure player when you don't get to see anything at all after the production sample. But it's a different way of doing things. But I kind of came back and I thought, I want to do something that's sustainable. I think it's gone so far. I think that what we're doing to the planet with fashion, fashion being the second biggest polluter in the world, is kind of so sad. And I think we've got to try and do something. And I kind of feel not responsible for it, but I am, clearly, because I've been in this business for so long.
I think everyone's played a part.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
But even the consumer as well.
Oh, totally. Yes, I think we've all played a part, and I think, but it's time now to use the experience and the knowledge that I've got to try and do something to sort of counteract that, if you like. And so I've got various ideas that I've been talking to people about, various sort of different platforms around the whole sustainability, around vintage, around pre-loved, around upcycling, and I haven't got the complete shape of what I'm going to do yet.
Yeah. A shell.
But it's kind of the idea is coming together, and I've sort of got. I mean, I think it's the right thing to do, and I also think it's the right time. And I think people have talked for years about the fact that the next generation is into ethical fashion or sustainable fashion, blah blah blah, and that clearly hasn't been the case. I kind of feel now, and I don't know whether this is true or not, but I kind of feel almost that a tipping point was reached last year, and that people. So I think part of it was maybe down to people like Stacey Dooley.
Yeah.
She showed that brilliant program. Which and the thing is that I've been in the business for years. I knew that we weren't supposed to buy cotton from Uzbekistan, but I hadn't actually seen a sea that used to be there completely dry up in 40 years. And I think it was the visual imagery that the impact of it that was really key. And actually so many people that I know in the industry have now sort of said, I'm not buying anything.
Yeah.
That's not going to last. They'll not buy anything for like a month.
Yeah, and it's so old.
Exactly, yes, yeah. But people, but I think that at last they're beginning to sort of see, hang on a minute, we can't continue as we're doing it at the moment. Or something has to change.
Consuming things.
Well, and that's the other thing. And a friend of mine, in fact, Jane, who I do the podcast with, podcast Out of Fashion, if you haven't been listened to it, we kind of, both of us came up with this term, peak shit stuff. And it kind of feels like we've reached that,
It is.
And you just sort of think, oh, God, it's just, I'm exhausted by it.
Yeah, and every time you do a clear out, you chuck out the shit and keep the nice stuff. And you think, why aren't I learning not to buy nice?
I know. And the weird thing is, okay, so I spent a year buying like nothing when I was away. All I wore was jeans and stripy tops because I didn't need to, I was in the middle of nowhere. And so now I'm just wearing the stuff that I kept that I put into storage 2 years ago. And it's fine. Yeah. I don't need. I actually don't need any more clothes, and I haven't been buying any stuff. And actually, I found myself going into some high street stores that I used to find quite exciting. And I just look at it and I just think, I'm
don't
not.
Care.
No, I don't care. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And I don't know whether that's because at the moment there's, trends are not moving very quickly.
No.
In fact, the stuff that I'm wearing from 2 years ago looks absolutely fine now. Nothing has changed that much.
I mean, I've got jeans and a white t-shirt on. You can't get much more.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
Me too.
Timeless,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think things are changing. I'm not going to be sort of holier than thou and say I'm never going to buy from the high street again. Of course, that's not true. But
because you have still got that passion.
Exactly. Yeah. I love fashion still, but I want to find a way of doing it that doesn't continue to pollute quite as much as it currently is. Yeah.
I think people's mindsets changed last year, and then this year people's actions will change.
I hope so. I really hope so.
It's like the tipping point, but your mindset's got to change first.
Yes.
And for your actions to then follow.
Yeah, I think so. But the question is, of course, what will people do if they're not constantly consuming or shopping all the time? What will we do instead? I mean, I've taken up pottery. But
have you? Oh my God! Have you watched the pottery showdown?
I know I haven't, but I really
so good.
love pottery.
Yeah.
I don't know whether it's that sort of getting back to doing stuff with your hands, or it being a kind of creating something that's actual that you can just I don't know see in front of you. It's really exciting.
There's something in that. Maybe hobbies or experiences.
Yes.
And this whole digital detox, moving away from the phone.
Yes.
I mean, I'm one. I do it. I sort of boast when I've not been on Instagram for 2 days.
Yes.
And I think it is almost a pride that you've managed to stay off your phone because you've managed to
do something else.
Yeah, like, oh my God.
Have a conversation.
Yes. Can't
yes.
believe it. And I read an article recently that was really interesting about in Hong Kong they're doing these make-do-amend workshops. And I think there's really something in that.
Well, do you know what? There's all of these sort of craft things that have always been there seem to be becoming more and more popular. And a friend of mine has joined a local kind of sewing group, and she said they're doing like loads of upcycling and embroidery, and she said that it's just full of like every age group. It doesn't matter, you know. Everyone's suddenly kind of it migrating to doing these things that are just a bit more interesting, as you say, than just checking Instagram.
I know, but because it's so boring.
It's so boring.
But you hate yourself for being addicted to it.
Yes.
And I listened to Russell Brand recently, and he said that the people who invented Instagram don't let their children on it.
I'm sure they don't.
I'm sure they
don't.
know how bad it is for you. We don't know how bad it is in the long run. But
I know.
It's scary.
It's a killer, isn't it? It really is.
So one of the other things I wanted to ask you about was, I know your parents aren't from a creative background. So was one a mathematician and one was a chemist?
Biochemist. Yes, that's right. Yes.
How did they feel when you said you wanted to go into fashion? Were they quite supportive of that? Or?
Well, I think, I don't know. I think, to be honest, they were probably just relieved that I found something. Because in their eyes, I wasn't academic, really, at all. Because, you know, so I went to university, but I looked upon it as 3 years to have a really good time in London, and, you know.
Fair enough.
I was pretty irresponsible. I was very rebellious, and I think they just kind of thought, "Oh, at last, she's found something," and then were kind of astonished that I was quite good at it, and also you could make a living from it, and
Because I think they don't teach that in schools necessarily, that you can be successful in a creative industry.
I think you're absolutely right. I think I still think it's really hard to find out all of the different jobs, say, even in just the fashion industry, all of the different things that you can do that are all kind of creative in different ways, using different parts of your brain. You know, you don't have to be a designer. I can't draw either. Exactly. Yeah. And originally, when I first started out, I thought, well, I can't be in the fashion business because I can't draw. But in fact, it was a student of my mother's who had done a chemistry degree, who came back to her and said, actually, you know what? I've become a buyer. And I was like 15 at the time. I was like, what does a buyer do?
Yeah.
And she told me, and I thought, I can do that. You know.
I think people have no idea how clothes get on that shop floor.
No.
The work that goes behind it, and the amount of people that are
they're involved in the process.
Onto a buying floor and saw one chaos that happens on it.
And the clothes.
And the fact they're delayed, or they're not in on the right time, or they're not the right price, or they're not from the right factory, or the factory's burnt down, or the lorry's got burnt. I mean, it's madness how many things could go wrong along the way. But
it's amazing anything actually gets there.
It really is. And I know when we were speaking before that there's 300 new brands starting every week, and I've worked with less than 1% of them, probably. What do you think are the biggest challenges they're facing at the moment?
It's a really interesting time. It's actually probably the easiest time ever to actually start your own brand, because you don't have to have a shop. You can make yourself a website using Shopify pretty easily and relatively cheaply. You don't actually have to know very much. You know, you've just got to get a product and then get it out there. I mean, you could be better at sort of social media in terms of raising your own profile than you are at actually making the clothes. But having said that, the difficult thing, of course, is trying to break through the noise. I mean, because there are 300 every week. You know, how are you going to make yours stand out? And I think the two most important things at the moment are obviously still the product. The product's always got to be the most important
desirable
thing. Exactly, because once people get it, they've got to really love it because they want to come back for more. But I think the narrative is now almost as important as the product. And I think if you haven't got a story, and a good story, you know?
That resonates with people.
Exactly. And if you're not a good storyteller, if you're not articulate in the way that you tell your story, or if you're not good at in terms of social media, then I think then it's really hard. It's having that combination of a great product that people need, you know. And also, let's not forget, as you said earlier, you know, people don't actually need very much now. No. They've got what they want. So it's creating something that people either need or just desire. Is so compelling, and then a story that goes with it that is, you know, that ticks all the boxes for them. You know, makes them feel good about buying it, and, you know, perhaps something that's sustainable or ethical. I mean, I don't want to sound cynical here, but I think that's kind of the way to do it.
Yeah, because you want, when somebody buys it, you want them to tell your story for you.
Of course you do.
And then spread the word. And that is kind of half the job done for you.
Yes.
And make your customers. I think it's called BFF marketing.
Yes.
Yeah. And
definitely.
Yeah, it's probably some really old marketing theory, but just given a new name.
Exactly, yeah. I'm sure it hasn't actually changed very much the way we market. It's just, different tools.
And I met somebody recently who was probably similar to you, but from New Look.
Yes.
And he asked me if I was going to start my own brand.
Yes.
And I said no. And he said, well, why? Because you know how to buy and you know how to supply. You've got all the knowledge.
Yes.
And I said, because I don't want to. I don't need to. And I don't want to. And he was like, oh, wow, that's a really honest answer.
Yes.
And I thought, well, there's no reason for me to start a brand. I haven't spotted a particular niche in the community. I'm not going to say never say never, but right now I'm not going to start one just because I can.
No, because you need to be so passionate about something if you're going to do it. Yes.
And I'm similar to you in the sense that I worked in fashion, got to the point where we were saying it's almost a bit easy / kind of bored.
Yes.
And then wanted to do something that was, I was more coming from like the helpful thing. I wanted, but still, I think the similarities are that it's got a purpose.
Yes.
And I thought if I can help people with the knowledge that I've got with these small brands that are starting, why not?
Yes, absolutely.
Because
there's enough of them.
Rate's quite high. And I thought, well, what if I could somehow reduce that failure rate and improve that by using the knowledge?
Good for you.
Well, hopefully.
Why not? I think that's great. I think it's great. And also, I think having the variety of sort of working with lots of different brands is really kind of quite good for you.
And also meeting people outside the fashion industry.
Well, do you know what? I think.
Oh my God.
I think actually, we were particularly bad. I think people in Arcadia are actually particularly bad, or used to be anyway, because it was such a big group. You almost felt like you didn't have to go outside it.
No,
and you
leave. Interests.
Exactly.
So you think, oh, you're going to be my friend.
And then you leave, and all of a sudden you're meeting all these people from totally different places, businesses, and you kind of realise actually how the whole thing fits together.
Yeah, I mean, we run workshops as well, so obviously I have a buying background. I met somebody else who's got a merchandise background and somebody else who's got a design background, and obviously they're the three things that you need to start a brand. So we run these workshops, and the people that come to them are unbelievable.
Really?
They're lawyers, accountants, mortgage brokers, and I just think, wow, that is so, I feel sorry for them, but I think you don't want to be doing that, which is why you're at this workshop, and you've probably been pushed into this sort of successful brackets, career path, but actually you've got this creative fulfillment that you want to fulfill, and I just think, oh God, I really hope that you do well, and then you go around and see their boards that they create, and they're beautiful.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my God!
And you think, oh my God, an accountant would never be able to create this, but there's still that creative person inside. They've just got a different title to it.
Yes.
It's really amazing.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So out of all these new small brands, are there any that have kind of caught your eye recently?
Well, I haven't. Recently, I've sort of tended to be meeting up with people who are doing something different. Doing perhaps more of a service to the industry. Or I've met a few people who are working on sustainable platforms, and there are some nice ones out there. Antibad is a nice one.
Yes. I've heard that Antibad, I can't remember if it was them, but they even use a carbon neutral domain provider.
Wow.
I mean, it's almost those things that are making people different.
Yes, and I think they're quite nice, and I think that it's quite well edited, and it's quite a nice It's quite a nice sort of selection. There are other brands like and Daughter. I don't know if you know them. Who
I would.
a really small knitwear brand where they make in factories in Ireland and Scotland.
Oh, nice.
But you wouldn't buy them because they're ethical. You buy them because they're really beautiful jumpers.
Yeah.
So
I think they're desirable.
Exactly, and I think and for me that's the point. I'm really absolutely not interested in ethical for the sake of it.
No, sort of like artist teacher, hemp linen,
yes,
sacks.
yeah, and I unfortunately think so much of the ethical clothing out there at the moment is disappointing.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So and Daughter I really love. I think they've got a beautiful product. I met a couple of women the other day who have got a business called Harper, which is kind of it's a kind of a courier business. So they pick up from designer brands and they deliver and they send a stylist along. So they're kind of bridging that gap.
Yeah.
I thought that was quite interesting. I don't know. I think the people that I'm more interested in are the ones who are doing something that's kind of
extra.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like offering a service.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
and Stitch Fix as well.
Yes.
I've heard they're coming to the UK this year. I think that's going to be amazing.
I think there's a few American brands actually that are coming who will be good. And the other side of things is the whole the pre-loved and the rental market.
Okay. So apologies, we just got interrupted. The joys of living in central London, but regardless.
Yes.
So we were just talking about some brands that are doing something a little bit extra, offering an experience or a service.
I also think there's quite a few really nice vintage brands. Well, I call them brands, they're not really. Vintage sort of sellers around. Some who are really curating it, like Desert Vintage. I don't know if you know them.
No.
But there's quite a few of them who seem to sell through Instagram. They maybe pop up at Portobello from time to time. But just really nicely curated vintage,
doing some of the work for you.
Exactly, yeah.
A lot of the work.
Yeah, and I think vintage is becoming more and more popular. But I think it's useful if people are given a little bit of help to actually put it together, by the brand. So. And upcycling is the other thing. I think that there will be, again, there's a couple of people in New York who have done it quite well. I think it's going to come back as something that's sort of much more interesting.
Rather than starting from scratch, like using what's already there.
Exactly, because there's so much stuff out there, isn't there?
Yeah.
It's funny, I was thinking, I remember when there used to be a store in London called Lawrence Corner that used to do army surplus.
Okay.
And we loved it. We used to love it because it used to have kind of naval jackets, boiler suits, all that sort of stuff. And I was thinking now, you can still get that stuff, but you've got to go online for it. But you can't actually see. You kind of need to see it. You want to look at a boiler suit and think, is that for like a big man, or is that something that I could actually fit into? So, I think there's something in that as well. Yeah. That's quite interesting.
So, is there anyone on the high street that you think looks amazing at the moment, or is doing well? I don't know.
Well, there's nobody at the moment that I feel really excited by.
No.
There's a few brands that I've always kind of. Well, in fact, I've just been to the COS in Coldrops Yard.
Yes.
Have you been there? It's kind of very, very heavily curated and the sort of artworks and things. It is quite nice because you don't have to wade through all the basics and everything. And there are one or two nice-ish pieces in there, but there's nothing that makes me think, oh my God, I've got to have that. Yeah. I like the idea of Arquette, but nothing fits.
Cold as well.
It's everything's sort of slightly clumsy. It sort of looks like it was maybe made in a menswear factory or something. Do you know what I mean? That doesn't quite fit, and it's a little bit dull.
It's almost gone too far.
Other stories, I love the idea of it, but I look at it and I just think, seen it, been there, done that. I don't know. There's nothing that kind of.
I think the thing where somebody said this about an hour ago actually, that because the sales aren't good, they think it's to do with price, and they think if we make it cheaper, they'll buy it.
Yes.
But actually, How about you go a little bit the other way and put a little bit more effort into it?
I know.
Make it absolutely
Or take a bigger risk.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's so safe.
It's so boring, isn't it?
And I mean, I bought this cardigan from ASOS because I liked it. And
Yes.
but I think that's probably the first thing I've bought in 6 weeks.
Is it? Yeah. I
And
know.
I'm definitely buying less. And I do think it's partly the same as you, that I'm working from home. I'm not sort of on this fashion show on the
Yes.
catwalk every
Yes.
single day anymore, where you've got
Yes.
to sort of prove that you're up to
That
speed.
you're credible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes I'd think in the morning, I'm so tired, I'm not going to make an effort, and the second I walked in the door, I'd regret it.
Because someone else looks amazing.
Yeah.
Yes.
And on the way to work, you're like, oh, I'm so comfy, I'm so warm, and you see somebody else looking amazing, and you're like, I hate myself.
I should have made the effort.
I should have just spent an extra 10 minutes.
Yeah.
But that's almost like what I think the brand should be doing.
I know.
Just spend a little bit more time and thinking,
Yes.
how can I make it amazing?
Yes.
Yeah. So, are there any trends that you are excited to see? Or
I'm not excited. Do you know what? I mean, the whole streetwear thing is fine. It's great.
Yeah.
It's really comfortable, and all the rest of it doesn't really excite me anymore.
I think when you were saying about the menswear, that there seems to be a lot of interest on men's.
I think menswear is much more interesting.
Yeah.
Actually, I really do. And in fact, I'm quite into those sort of brands that are doing the gender neutral collections, where
like
they just
the ASOS.
it just sort of
Pollution.
menswear that sort of and I apparently. So we're led to believe tailoring is coming back again because everything's cyclical, and of course you have too much streetwear for a while, and then you want something that's a bit more structured. I do love tailoring. I love kind of I love suits
And soft
I love
tailoring.
trouser suits. I just think I love that kind of whole androgynous kind of thing. So yeah, I'm looking forward to someone doing that well.
Yes.
I haven't seen it yet.
It's so hard.
I know.
I remember I must have sat through so many trend presentations, and they say, we're going to do it this year, we're going to do the androgynous, and then the samples come back from the factories, and your head just
And
in
they're
your
just
hands.
so cheap and nasty.
Yeah.
I know.
Or like menswear.
Yes,
They just
yes.
nobody's going to buy it.
I know.
Yeah, it's a really fine line to be
It
able to do
is.
well.
It is.
Yeah.
And they have to be done well. I think the person who does it well is Bella Freud. It's so expensive though, for most people it's out of their reach. But I think she does. I think hers looks really authentic. It's
got
really,
a little bit of sense of humour as well.
yeah, and it's flattering. And her tweed coat, it's just absolutely gorgeous. And I think she's done some lovely suits. But I think it is a hard thing to get right. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, I think that's all my questions.
You're very welcome. We haven't talked about SmartWorks.
SmartWorks, yes, of course.
So
yeah,
that
let's
is another.
finish on that
That's
because
something
it's
else.
that's really new. And exciting. Yeah.
It's something. Well, it's a charity that I've been supporting for a while, but it's an amazingly simple idea. All it is that they try and help women who've been out of the workplace for a period of time, for whatever reason. It actually doesn't matter, and they basically give them an interview outfit, style them, and give them some sort of interview training if they need it or if they want it. But the thing is that they've got high standards. So that a lot of their suiting comes from Burberry. We used to give a lot of dresses from Whistle. So the clothes that they dress their clients in are really nice. And we just found out recently that the Duchess of Sussex has become a patron too. So she's one of my fellow patrons. I haven't met her yet, but
it's on the list.
On the list, exactly. Yeah. So
and your success rate is really high.
It's amazing. It's like 60%. It is. It's fantastic.
And I think it's not even really about the clothes. It's how you make them feel.
It's about those people having like the attention of people who really care about them for a period of time.
I think anybody has it in the past to go to somebody who
it's lovely. It's a really it's just such a great idea.
And if anybody did want to sort of take a look at that or get involved,
yes, or well, either styling. So they're always looking for people to style clients. They're always looking for donations. So donations from brands or from just people's wardrobes. Anything really at all.
Excess stuff.
Exactly. If you want to get rid of your stuff, give it to SmartWorks. Yes.
And obviously people can find you on the podcast, Out of Fashion.
They can find me on the podcast, Out of Fashion, on which is on iTunes.
And season 2 starting soon.
I think it's starting beginning of February.
Okay, brilliant.
So
Oh, thank you so much. I've loved speaking to you.
I've had a great time, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening. Everything Jane and I discussed is in the show notes. So if you want to find out how you can get involved with SmartWorks or listening to Jane's podcast, then hit the links below. You can also follow Jane at Jane Shep, which is JANESHEP. If you enjoyed the episode and want to keep up to date with the fashion feed, just hit the subscribe button. It's totally free and just means it will automatically land into your podcast inbox every fortnight. I'd love to see you listening in on Instagram, so just screenshot your phone and tag me at Elizabeth Stiles UK. You can follow me over there for advice on running your own brand, industry news, and a huge dose of motivation when you need it the most. So thanks again for listening and see you next time.